According to her, you lack intelligence. She's manipulating you. You folks consistently believe you can gain advantages by exploiting racial issues. These were her precise words, delivered loudly enough for the entire dining establishment to witness, yet quietly enough for the management to feign ignorance. There I stood, clutching a silver serving tray with fury burning in my mouth, my heart beating rapidly, as though I had just completed a barefoot marathon. My identity is Amara Collins. I am 24 years old, African-American, and female. I serve customers at Lebu, among Chicago's priciest rooftop dining establishments, the type of venue where sparkling wine exceeds monthly housing costs. And the seating provides more comfort than typical therapy furniture. When people observe me, they believe they already understand my narrative. However, this story differs from your typical African-American experience. This represents the evening when everything transformed, the night I alerted the incorrect billionaire regarding the incorrect woman. The following morning, I discovered a premium credit card at my front door. Indeed, that particular type of exclusive card allowed me to step back momentarily. You see, I never intended to become some sort of whistleblower or truth teller. I simply wanted to survive another work shift without experiencing harassment, humiliation, or being confused with the code attendant. Then I witnessed the text message. According to her, you lack intelligence. She's manipulating you. I can provide screenshot evidence if desired. I never planned to observe it. I had no desire to witness it, yet once I did, it became impossible to ignore. Therefore, I informed him. I told the billionaire executive that his seemingly perfect partner was deceptive. Subsequently, I lost everything. What I remained unaware of, what nobody understood, was that speaking out would reveal a hidden world I never knew existed. This narrative encompasses more than romance, betrayal, or vengeance. It concerns authority, honesty, and the cost of maintaining principles when you're the least expected person to resist. If you've experienced underestimation, stereotyping, or silencing, continue reading because this narrative, my narrative, might resonate with your own experience. Allow me to demonstrate what occurred afterward. My name is Amara Collins, and anyone who has worked double shifts while preparing for examinations will confirm that life offers no compassion. I was born in Chicago's South Side, raised in a single-bedroom apartment that vibrated whenever the elevated train traveled past. My mother worked overnight shifts at a care facility, yet still managed to style my hair before school. She would say, "Your intellect is your escape route. Sweetheart, but you must master navigating hardships before experiencing luxury." I carried her wisdom daily through university, lecture halls where I remained the sole black woman, present and through restaurant kitchens where everyone presumed I was staff even during my time off. At 24, I balanced academic textbooks with serving trays. I once aspired to become a clinical psychologist, but after losing my academic funding when my mother died, harsh reality struck. Currently, I attended evening courses at a nearby community college while serving tables at Lahu, one of the city's most exclusive rooftop restaurants. Situated 42 floors above Michigan Avenue, Lahu embodied everything I wasn't: immaculate, pretentious, and excessively refined. The establishment required servers to wear black silk attire and communicate in whispered tones, where patrons paid $200 for aged beef and abandoned half uneaten. I maintained my natural hairstyle, perfect posture, and remained observant. While most staff focused on surviving their shifts, I studied human psychology in real time. At Lahu, I initially encountered Lennox Carver. He transcended being merely another wealthy individual. He possessed a commanding presence, quiet and deliberate. He maintained a calmness, like someone who didn't require raised voices for attention. Staff whispers indicated his worth exceeded $9 billion. CEO of Titan XT Tech, self-made empire builder, speaker on innovation and equality topics, yet absent from social media platforms. Then there was Malene Voss. She entered as though she controlled the heavens. Blonde hair, defined jawline, eyes that blinked only when practiced. The type of woman who avoided bread offerings yet requested lemon water with precisely 2 ice cubes. They occupied table 12 that evening, picture perfect, influential, composed. Yet beneath all that refinement, something felt wrong. And me? I was about to discover how dangerous truth can become, particularly when delivered by someone they're unaccustomed to hearing from. It began with a phone screen illuminating at an inappropriate moment. Malene was mid-conversation, enjoying a martini while discussing some New York gala when her device vibrated. She glanced quickly, then angled it slightly, assuming nobody would notice. But I observed. I always observe. This occurs when you've spent years interpreting people's emotions before they speak, for your protection, for your survival. The message appeared for merely a second, yet that second altered everything. Transfer completed. He remains unsuspecting. Bali next week. I froze, positioned behind her with an appetizer tray. My heart plummeted to my stomach. I couldn't identify the sender, but identification wasn't necessary. The suggestion was unmistakably clear. This wasn't casual vacation planning. It resembled a robbery, a scheme, as though she was preparing to vanish with funds that weren't rightfully hers. I felt uncertain about my response. It wasn't my concern. I was merely the server, invisible, expendable, yet I couldn't ignore what I witnessed. I returned to the kitchen, attempting to dismiss it. My hands trembled. My chest constricted. I kept hearing my mother's voice from the night she discovered Dad had emptied her banking account and departed without explanation. She wept for hours. Though only 12, I never forgot that sound. I recognized that type of betrayal. Lennox didn't deserve such treatment, yet who was I to intervene? A black waitress interrupting a billionaire's meal to suggest his girlfriend might be stealing from him. It sounded like a headline destined for ridicule. Nevertheless, I couldn't overlook it. So I reached a decision. When Malene stepped outside for a phone conversation, I approached the table slowly, hands trembling yet steady. Lennox was browsing his own device, maintaining his usual composure. I leaned close enough to speak without attracting attention. "Sir," I whispered, "I realize this may sound absurd and could result in my termination, but I believe your girlfriend is deceiving you. I observed a message, something regarding a transfer and Bali. If I'm mistaken, I apologize, but if I'm correct, please exercise caution." He remained silent. He didn't even acknowledge me. I turned and departed, already anticipating the worst. I had no idea that warning would completely transform my existence. The instant I stepped away from table 12, I knew I had crossed an irreversible boundary. For the remainder of my shift, I moved as though walking on fractured glass. Each time the manager passed, I prepared myself. Every glance from fellow servers felt like a caution. I continuously replayed my words to Lennox, attempting to hear them from his viewpoint. Perhaps I appeared unprofessional. Perhaps I sounded envious. Or worse, perhaps I had sacrificed my future based on intuition. Yet truthfully, I would repeat my actions. Malene returned to the table 10 minutes later, laughing into her phone. She looked at Lennox, blew a kiss, then whispered in his ear. He nodded, but his expression remained unchanged, not one bit. He simply sipped his wine while maintaining that same unreadable composure. It was like attempting to read a sealed book. I thought, perhaps, just perhaps he heard me. Maybe I didn't risk everything for nothing. That hope proved short-lived. As I was ending my shift, my manager Richard approached me near the coat check. "Amara," he said, arms folded, voice frigidly cold, "we've received a customer complaint from Table 12's guests. Your behavior was inappropriate, unprofessional, and out of bounds." I attempted to explain, tried describing what I witnessed, but he interrupted before I completed my first sentence. "You people consistently believe you can create drama and receive sympathy. This establishment doesn't operate that way. We maintain standards." Those words, "you people," lingered like smoke. I had heard them previously, dressed in various forms, whispered in conference rooms, woven into rejection letters. Tonight, however, they struck like a slap. "I must terminate your employment," he stated flatly. "Return your apron." No warning, no written reprimand, simply dismissed. I walked into the night with tears streaming and $23 in tips. No employment, no contingency plan, and no understanding of what would follow. The pain wasn't solely from losing income. It hurt because I spoke truthfully, acted righteously, yet it was meaningless. At least that's what I believed. However, the following morning, everything changed. The next morning, I awakened to delivery truck sounds departing from the curb. Initially, I thought nothing of it. My body still ached from the previous night's tension. I had barely rested, replaying every moment of what occurred, losing my employment, the humiliation, Maline's expression, smug, satisfied, as though I was exactly what she expected. Disposable. I put on an old sweatshirt and stepped onto my apartment building's front porch. It was a quiet west side street where sirens and church bells provided the everyday soundtrack. That morning, however, silence prevailed. Still, and positioned on the top step, was a package, matte black. No shipping label, no company logo, no message, just there. I looked around, half expecting someone to emerge with camera equipment. Yet the street remained empty. I carefully carried it inside, heart racing. It wasn't heavy, but it felt significant, as though whatever was contained possessed weight beyond physical measurement. I sat at my small kitchen table and opened the lid. Inside was an elegant black envelope tucked within velvet lining, and beneath it, a card, heavy, cold to touch, titanium, jet black. My name was engraved on the front, Amara Collins. It wasn't a gift card. It wasn't a joke. It was a premium credit card, a genuine one issued by a bank I had only heard mentioned in news headlines. The type of card with no spending limits, no fees, no rejections. Tucked within the envelope was a single note, handwritten on thick cream paper. You were correct. You were courageous. Let's discover what else you can accomplish. Use it wisely, no signature, no directions. Just that. I stared at the card, then the note, then back at the card. I didn't understand the meaning. I couldn't determine if it was a test, a gift, or a trap, but I knew one certainty. Someone had listened to me. Someone powerful. Someone who didn't just believe my words but was observing. For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't experienced, being seen. The type of recognition that couldn't be ignored. This card wasn't merely symbolic, it was an entrance, and it had just opened. I avoided touching the card for the entire day. It remained on the counter, heavy as though it possessed its own heartbeat. I stared at it between toast bites and lukewarm coffee sips, waiting for a door knock, phone call, text message, something to explain what came next. Nothing arrived until nightfall. At precisely 8:00 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was an unfamiliar number. No caller identification, just a message. Check your mailbox. Box 412, code 6149, that was all. I threw on a jacket and walked 2 blocks to the UPS store with after-hours lockers. Sure enough, box 412 was blinking. I entered the code and the door opened. Inside was a small black bag, clean, organized, and within it, a disposable phone, a thumb drive, and a folded note. Watch, learn, don't engage yet. The drive contained hours of surveillance footage, restaurant cameras, traffic cameras, even unsteady cell phone videos. Every clip focused on Maline Voss, her charity events, late-night meetings, business associates who resembled professional gamblers more than philanthropists. Then there were banking statements, tens of thousands donated to her nonprofit, then redirected into luxury accounts in the Cayman Islands, a financial ghost trail that reeked of fraud. I wasn't simply observing a gold digger. She was laundering money, operating a complete international scam. Somehow I was holding the evidence. Over the following days, I received daily messages on the disposable phone, quiet instructions, observation locations, names to remember. Nobody explained what I was part of, but I began understanding this wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about Lennox. It was about integrity. Someone had recruited me into something larger, a network, a mission, possibly even a war. They trusted me to fulfill my role. I started taking notes, building timelines, observing how Maline operated, whom she met, what she wore when wanting something, the lies she told with just a smile. It was the first time in years my psychology degree felt meaningful. Strangely, I didn't feel frightened. I felt prepared. They had removed me from Libu, but now I was entering a completely new world. This time I wasn't just serving tables, I was serving justice. Change doesn't occur instantly. It never does. It begins quietly, like a whisper within your chest. Then one day you awaken realizing the girl who used to cringe when someone said her name too loudly, she's gone. A week after receiving the card and disposable phone, another delivery appeared. No identification, just a black duffel bag and a handwritten note. Fit the world before you reshape it. Inside was a wardrobe I could never have imagined owning. Tailored blazers, Italian leather boots, dresses that felt like silk woven from ambition itself. There were accessories too, sleek glasses, subtle jewelry, even a digital watch that resembled something from a spy film. Everything fit my size, my style, my energy elevated. This wasn't merely a makeover, it was armor. The world I was entering didn't play fairly. It didn't respect you unless you appeared powerful. For the first time, I did. I wasn't just blending in, I was standing out and standing tall. They provided online training, courses in body language analysis, negotiation tactics, cybersecurity. I studied while eating takeout. I practiced posture while brushing teeth. I rewrote everything I thought I knew about presence, confidence, and control. No lesson impacted me more than walking into my first high-end networking event undercover. It was a charity fundraiser for an education initiative hosted by one of Maline's shell organizations. The ballroom sparkled with chandeliers and artificial smiles. Servers who resembled my former self brushed past people who looked through them. This time, however, I wasn't one of them. I was Amara Collins, guest donor consultant. My name appeared on the list. My heels clicked louder than anyone else's in that room, but still I felt it. The stares, the microaggressions wrapped in compliments. Wow, you're so articulate. I didn't expect someone like you in this crowd. I smiled, nodded. Let them underestimate me because that was the strategy. Every sideways glance was fuel. Every fake laugh was proof they didn't see me coming. That made me dangerous. This wasn't just about appearing the part. It was about stepping into a role the world never wanted to give me and claiming it anyway. The waitress had disappeared. Now I was the storm knocking at their doors. The gala night was colder than anticipated. Downtown Chicago sparkled like a snow globe. Everything polished, bright, and slightly too perfect. The event was held at the Adler Pavilion, a private venue overlooking Lake Michigan, where glass walls made the skyline appear part of the decoration. Inside, money floated through the air like perfume. Diamond earrings caught light. Tuxedos hugged backs of men with too many secrets. Servers carried trays of oysters and gold-dusted macarons. Every detail screamed wealth. But I wasn't there to be impressed. I was there to end a deception. The gala was a facade, a supposed fundraiser for global education, organized by one of Malene Voss's nonprofit shells. The perfect cover for laundering 7 figures of dirty money while collecting reputation points for her philanthropy. This time, however, she wouldn't escape. I wore a deep navy gown with clean lines, understated power. My curls were pulled into a sleek bun, and a simple necklace shimmered at my collarbone. I appeared to belong. More than that, I looked like I owned the place. Lennox Carver was already present, quiet, calculated, standing near the bar with a scotch glass and a face carved from stone. We hadn't spoken since the night I warned him, not a word, but the way he nodded at me across the room conveyed everything I needed to know. He was ready. Malene took the stage just before dessert service, clad in a silver gown that glimmered like ice. She smiled that camera-ready smile and spoke with the ease of someone who thought she had already won. "We're proud to announce a $1 million donation tonight," she said, voice smooth as glass, "to fund literacy programs for underserved communities globally." Polite applause followed. Then silence because Lennox stepped forward. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. "Before we celebrate," he said, "we should ask where exactly that $1 million is coming from." He turned toward the screen behind the stage. With one click, the projector illuminated, revealing transfer records, offshore accounts, and photographs, all connected to Malene. My heart pounded in my chest. Cameras flashed. Guests gasped. Malene's smile cracked. Security moved in. She didn't even attempt to flee. She simply stood there frozen as her empire unraveled. And me? I stood in the crowd, calm as ever, because the girl they underestimated had just helped topple the queen. The entire room knew it. The consequences were immediate. By the next morning, my face was everywhere, not Malene's, not Lennox's, but mine. Photos of me standing in the crowd at the gala, frozen mid-smile, eyes steady, were splashed across gossip blogs, news outlets. and social media feeds like wildfire. Initially, it was subtle. Mysterious woman behind CEO scandal. Who is the black woman seen with Lennox Carver? But within hours, it turned vicious. Comment sections exploded with everything from curiosity to cruelty. Strangers dissected my hair, my skin, my clothes, even my expression. She doesn't look like someone who belongs there. Affirmative action strikes again. Probably slept her way in. That's how they do it. They didn't know me, didn't know my name, but they saw my color and filled in the blanks, the same way people always had. That night, I shut off my phone and sat in darkness for 2 hours, not crying, just empty. I had done the right thing, exposed a criminal, protected someone from being used, yet somehow I was the one being punished. Until Lennox spoke. He released a video the next day. No studio lighting, no fancy backdrop, just him sitting in his office in a plain white shirt looking straight into the camera. "I want to be clear," he said. The person who brought this deception to light wasn't just brave. She was strategic, observant, and ethical, everything this world needs more of. Her name is Amara Collins, and she deserves more than applause. She deserves protection. That clip went viral. Suddenly, the conversation shifted. Celebrities reposted it. Influencers spoke up. Black women flooded the comments with solidarity messages. Hashtags started trending. Justice for Amara, Black women, she saved $1 billion. Even people who didn't know the full story understood one thing. I had stood up when no one else did. A few days later, I was invited onto a talk show. National television, makeup crew, lights, nerves in my throat. The host smiled and asked, "What made you speak up?" I didn't have to think long. Because silence would have made me complicit, and I've been ignored enough in my life. I refused to ignore the truth in return. The audience clapped, not just politely, but with fire, with respect. In that moment, I wasn't just a waitress. I was a voice, and the world had finally decided to listen. 2 weeks after the gala, my life had shifted so rapidly it barely felt real. One day, I was pouring water at table 12. The next, I was sitting in green rooms, shaking hands with celebrities and answering emails from strangers thanking me for being brave. Yet for all the noise, part of me still felt like a guest in someone else's story. That changed the moment I received the call. It wasn't from an assistant. It wasn't scheduled through a PR firm. It was Lennox directly. "Can you come to the office?" he asked. "No cameras, just us?" I hesitated for a second, not from fear, from curiosity. What else could he possibly need from me? Titan X headquarters resembled something from a futuristic movie. Glass walls, floating staircases, a tech campus designed for people who didn't believe in ceilings, only sky. His office was minimalist. One large desk, no trophies, just a wall of books and a single photo of his late mother. He stood as I entered. "You clean up well," he said with a smile. "But then again, you always did," I smiled back. "Still not used to people looking me in the eye." He nodded slowly. "I didn't bring you here to discuss the past." He slid a folder across the table. Inside, an offer letter. Director of Integrity and Strategic Insight. 6-figure salary. Full benefits. A team, I blinked twice. "You want me to work for you?" "No," he said, leaning forward. "I want you to work with me." He explained that Titan X had quietly launched a division focused on internal ethics, whistleblower protection, and fraud detection. But it lacked one thing: someone who understood how corruption hides in plain sight. Someone who knew what it felt like to be overlooked and still chose to see the truth. "I need someone like you," he said. "Someone who doesn't scare easy." It would have been easy to say yes right then, but I didn't. I asked for time. I walked out of that building and sat in my car for an hour, staring at the city skyline, thinking about my mother, about the version of me that once waited tables in silence. Was I ready for this kind of responsibility? The answer came slowly but clearly. I didn't survive all this to play small now, so I called him back. "I'm in," I said. And just like that, the next chapter began. The first thing I did with my new paycheck wasn't flashy. No designer bags, no luxury vacations, no Instagram-worthy unboxing. I paid off my mother's medical debt, every single bill, the kind that had been haunting my credit score since I was 18. The ones with red stamps and bold letters, final notice, collections, past due. They were more than just numbers. They were reminders of every night she chose medicine over meals, of every job she took to keep us housed. Clearing those debts felt like lifting bricks off my chest one by one. Then I called my Aunt Cheryl, the woman who raised me after my mother passed, and told her the house was hers. No rent, no mortgage, just peace. After that, I enrolled back in college. This time I paid up front. I switched majors, no longer psychology. I chose ethics and organizational leadership because it wasn't just about understanding people anymore. It was about changing systems. I wanted the tools to do it right, but the biggest shift wasn't financial or academic. It was how I saw myself. I used to walk into rooms trying not to take up space. Now I walked in knowing I belonged. At Titan X, I wasn't just a title on a door, I was a force. I led investigations, built protocols, created pathways for people who thought no one would ever believe them. I made sure our team looked like the world, not just one version of it. Still, I knew this couldn't just be about corporate power. So I started something on the side, a nonprofit called Seen and Heard. It offered mentorship and resources to Black women entering tech and finance. We helped with resumes, mock interviews, wardrobe support, but also confidence. Because the hardest part isn't getting in the door, it's staying in the room. Every time I stood in front of those young women, I saw pieces of myself, nervous, overlooked, but so full of potential. I told them what no one had told me early enough. You are not the background in someone else's story. You are the headline. Rebuilding myself didn't mean erasing who I was, it meant honoring her. The girl with calluses on her feet and fire in her voice. The one who lost everything and used that loss to rise. I wasn't trying to be someone new. I was finally becoming who I was always meant to be. Just when I thought the story had settled into something steady, life reminded me that peace isn't always permanent. It started with a name buried deep in a financial audit I was reviewing for a routine investigation. A simple oversight, or so it seemed. But something about it didn't sit right. The signature on a shell company account tied to a consulting contract looked familiar. Too familiar. I zoomed in. Same style, same initials. LC, Lennox Carver. At first, I told myself it had to be coincidence. Maybe someone forged his name. Maybe it was a different LC entirely. But the deeper I dug, the harder it was to deny. Wire transfers traced back to projects no one in the company could explain. Contracts signed during weekends, filed through offshore entities. Quiet, subtle, but intentional. It didn't scream theft. It whispered cover-up. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was afraid of what I'd found, but because I didn't know what to do with it. This was the man who changed my life, who believed in me when no one else would, who gave me power, a platform, and purpose. But what if I was just part of the performance? What if I was the face of integrity while he pulled strings in the dark? The next morning, I stood outside his office for a full 10 minutes before knocking. He looked up, calm as always. Something on your mind? I held the folder in my hand like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I found something, I said. And I need to ask, is it what I think it is? He didn't blink. He didn't deny it. He simply said, some truths aren't black and white, Amara. They're gray. And sometimes, to fix a broken system, you have to learn how to bend it. That's when I realized this wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of another choice. Was I here to play the game or change it? I walked out of his office without saying a word, heart heavy, mind racing. Maybe he was still the man I thought he was, or maybe he never was. All I knew for sure was this: the truth isn't always clean. And power, real power, comes with a price. I had a decision to make. And next time, I wouldn't just be holding someone else accountable. I'd be watching everyone, including the ones who gave me a seat at the table. Because even saviors need to be checked, especially the ones who look like heroes. Looking back, I used to think life was a ladder, one you climb if you just work hard enough, play nice enough, stay quiet long enough. But it's not. Life is more like a storm, and you're not always meant to climb through it. Sometimes you become it. I started this journey as a waitress, invisible, overlooked, talked down to, judged for the color of my skin before I ever opened my mouth. But somewhere along the way, through betrayal, exposure, truth, and transformation, I found something bigger than success. I found my voice. And more importantly, I found the power that comes with using it, not for attention, but for impact, not for applause, but for integrity. I learned that doing the right thing won't always come with rewards. Sometimes it'll cost you friends, comfort, even your career. But if it costs you your silence, it's always worth it. The world doesn't change because perfect people show up. It changes when real people decide to stop shrinking. So if you've ever felt too small to matter, too out of place to speak up, too tired to keep going, remember this: you are already enough. Your story matters. Your truth has weight. And sometimes the most radical thing you can do is refuse to disappear. So keep going. Keep speaking. Keep standing even when your knees shake because someone is watching. And someone somewhere needs to hear that it's okay to fight back, even when your voice trembles. And if this story moved you, challenged you, or reminded you of your own, don't scroll away in silence. Drop a comment, share this with someone who needs it, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Because trust me, the next story, it's one you won't want to miss. This was Amara's story, but it could have easily been mine or yours. Because in a world that still tries to write us off, telling our stories might just be the boldest thing we ever do.